It's the top of the hour, so I think that's a good time to get things started, knowing how busy everybody is in the laboratory, and Allison in particular on our side too. So my name is Michael. A warm welcome to everybody that is joining us today. Before we get things kicked off here with From Manual to Magical Automation Strategies for Multi-Facility AP and Clinical Labs, let's introduce our primary speaker and let her talk a little bit about herself, which I'm guessing she's not so comfortable at doing sometimes, but I like to put her on the spot. Allison Still, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
All right. So I know Allison has plenty to show us, so we'll get right to it. First question comes from me. Is this an accurate portrayal of your current lab environment? Hopefully not, but for some of you, that might be the case. Out of control monster is what we are showing here on the screen. And we break it down even a little bit further. Why are we discussing monster? How do labs create monsters? It's by utilizing all sorts of different laboratory software systems to actually get the specimen in the door, process, and then have the result reported. So as you can see, things can quickly turn from static to chaotic when you start adding all these different individual solutions rather than having a united one source of truth laboratory software solution. Hopefully this is not the case for you. If it is, you're in the right place. You're going to learn a little bit from Allison here a little bit later on about what a complete informatics platform looks like and how it can really benefit you and your lab customers. So when we talk about a complete laboratory informatics platform, here is what we mean. Intuitive, comprehensive, flexible. Basically anything you need from start to finish, all embedded within one united software solution. As you can see on the screen, anatomic pathology, clinical laboratory, supporting engines, key ones there, rule and automation, which Allison will certainly touch upon, interface engine. We switch on over to supporting modules on the lower right side. You can see that there's digital pathology support, direct-to-consumer portal support, outreach support. And then for many laboratories, another very important aspect is the revenue cycle management end of it. Some laboratories certainly choose to do their revenue cycle management with a laboratory billing service, outsourcing that, and some choose to have it in-house with laboratory software. Advanced laboratory information system platforms like the one we offer at Legal Lab do have embedded laboratory billing solutions as part of the application. And as you can see on the screen here, that is the case with the Legal Lab platform. The revenue management side of it is a key aspect that a lot of our users really enjoy. And it certainly helps on the efficiency side of things, eliminating denied claims, capturing revenue, and making that claim turn into revenue faster. So what we're hopefully going to demonstrate to you today is some things that you can do with an advanced laboratory information system that will transform your laboratory. And I'll let everybody kind of peruse the screen right here. If you look at this list, these are things that your lab might be struggling with now, but don't despair. There is hope. There is a solution with advanced laboratory information systems, automation, and rules. A lot of those bottlenecks, a lot of those difficulties that you're dealing with on a daily basis, a lot of those paper processes can ultimately go away. So transforming your laboratory is something that we think of very strongly. From a Legal Lab point of view, we certainly want to be more than just a lab vendor. We want to be a laboratory partner and align with you. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But I think now I've talked enough. I think we should get Allison on board here, and she will take us through these real world examples of lab automation and how they can streamline and simplify many different roles within the laboratory. I'll keep this on the screen for just a moment or two so everybody can take a look. As they do, please note we'd like to keep this interactive. So as Allison goes through these different examples, please utilize the question option here on Zoom. And if you have a question, just drop it into the Zoom application at any time, and we will certainly answer that question as we go. Allison will take a break after everything that she does show to give everybody a chance to ask whatever questions they might have about what they just saw. And then also, as we wrap things up, we'll have a general Q&A opportunity as well. So with that, I think, Allison, we are ready for you and your screen.
All right. All right, let me know if you can't see my screen. Okay, today we are going to start with exceptioning. So I'm going to start a new order. And first I'll start by entering the client. As soon as I select the client, we can already see some items have been automatically applied for us, such as a patient class, as well as a default billing source. These are tied to the client. And once I select a provider, then we'll also start to see any client and or provider special instruction tags that have been configured, which we see here on the bottom left, such as patient ID being required or a referring physician being required. So any similar requirements that you might have can be configured as tags and can alert here at accessioning to remind the user performing this step to enter certain values or double check certain things, as well as configuring rules to enforce that. Here, since our tag said referring physician was required, we go ahead and enter a CC provider and continue tabbing through our field to enter the patient demographic. You don't even need to search actively for a patient profile. The system will automatically detect if the patient that you're entering potentially matches an existing patient in the system, prompting you to link it, which is what we see here. So we can go ahead and say that this is our patient, and that patient's profile will be applied to the order. Here we see their address was applied, as well as the payment source they paid with the last time they came in. Going on to the second tab, we'll have ICDs at the top. Now here there is a rules section, which is usually collapsed by default, but this is where you can see any provider standing order rules which have been configured. So here we can see both of these rules, reflexing chlamydia gonorrhea or reflexing HPV, are tied to the specific provider I chose for this order. You don't normally need to look here. This is all in the background, right? Just like to show for demonstration purposes that that automation happening in the background. Here we can go ahead and add our test. Let's add a surgical biopsy as well as a PAP. In LEGO Lab, all testing from a laboratory can be added to the same order regardless of the department. So your anatomic pathology, cytopathology, clinical, molecular, microbiology, they can all go in the same order. They're from the same data service, of course. And any ask what order entry questions that have been configured associated with your testing will appear here, like we see these ones. And let's go ahead and enter the site for our gyne biopsy. Let's say it's a cervical biopsy. And then we're going to select the more specific site from what is configured in the site manager or site library in this environment. Here the system is highlighting in green things it thinks match what I typed back here. So I can go ahead and select one. And when I click OK, then the histology protocol that I've configured for a cervical biopsy is applied like you see here. This step can also happen at grossing if you prefer, but it is going to be tied downstream to some more automation, such as codes that are applied and templates that are available. We can go ahead and save the order. Oh, and we get this alert message that I did not fill in the required guide cytology source, which was back here. So we can go back and select this. You can configure any number of similar order save rules that'll check any conditions on the order related to the client, provider, payment source, testing, to make sure that nothing important is missed. And we can try saving again. No alerts this time. We can print our labels and also scan in the requisition or any other paperwork received with this case. I'm going to go ahead and attach just a sample rec I have saved on my computer, which we can reference as we go along. So we're going to pretend that this is our requisition for our demonstration today. And Michael, here I'll pause at the end of the accessioning step.
Awesome. One thing that catches my eye, maybe others as well, is this screen that you have up right now. Can you describe this a little bit and how this might be beneficial, this screen on its own, to lab technicians?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the application's home screen. For most users, this is the screen the application will open to by default when you first log in. And each user will have their own unique view here, which they can customize with these, what I call like home screen card links. These are links to screens throughout the application, links you would otherwise find here on the sidebar navigation. But there are, as you can tell, quite a few options available. So this can be a nice way to just group the things most relevant for your particular user's job. And conveniently, there will be a count if it's a queue of how many things are associated with that queue. For example, there's no count for creating a new order, but we can see, there's 39 slides pending in the slide queue, for example. The cards can change color based on how many records are pending in the queue, like this one is. They can be linked to templates in the queue, which is what is showing here. And then, of course, the image on the card is customizable as well.
All right. I do have a question from the audience. How customizable are the rules within the system for different lab types or clients?
Entirely customizable. There aren't too many rules that are shared between customers. When we have new customers, they get what we call the vanilla environment. So if there are any rules that we have deemed or previously determined that would be useful for many different labs, then there will be some rules pre-configured in that environment. But otherwise, most rules are completely specific to the individual customer or laboratory. They're entirely customizable. Any conditions, and then there's a predetermined list of actions, like add test, pop-up notification, distribution, but also custom script, which can accomplish any custom action that you need.
Okay, and here's another question. Maybe want to hold this one for a little bit later on, but can you describe the pathologist queue, in particular, all the possible rules for case assignment? I think you have that coming up a little bit later on the agenda, so it's up to you if you want to switch things around or keep the way you planned.
We are going to go to the pathologist queue later, but just to say a little bit about assignment, any property of the case can be used to determine which pathologist will be assigned to read that case. Common criteria would be state licensure, specialty, client or physician preference, even like a billing preference. But really anything the system knows can go into who it's assigned to. And yeah, those will be handled by similar rules to the lab order rules that I showed.
Okay, I think a good time now to go to grossing and QA.
Okay, great. We can start grossing from the home screen card, or again, we could go to the queue directly on the sidebar. All the queues in Lego Lab are real-time, as the grossing queue is. So the real-time queue of all the cases that are waiting to be grossed. And we can open the touch screen here. This is a specialized screen. It's compatible with touchscreen monitors, where you can scan the bottle or the primary specimen received, and it will populate the case into the window. Like so. And we can have the requisition open side by side, right? So if the requisition is scanned at order entry, it's nice for the grocer where they can see it side by side while they're working, and they don't need to have the physical requisition in the laboratory with them. Here we see much of the information that was applied at order entry. For example, the same specimen and histology protocol that we saw there. On the test info tab, we can also see the specimen description typed at order entry, as well as that site area operation selection. And here we can see this also came with some additional automated elements such as the case type, as well as the default grossing description template. So this is only one option for how you could have the grossing description added with a pre-configured template. And otherwise, you could just have the grocer apply their template now. They can see the available macros from the pick list, or this will be the abbreviation, which they can type directly into the field or dictate, which we know is pretty common here. So yeah, they can enter their grossing description, reference the requisition as they need, and back in the specimens tab, we can enter the number of pieces of tissue that are going into each cassette. This is some nice downstream QA to make sure that no pieces were lost during processing. I will use this screen to describe our tags and workflow actions a little bit. This is our flagging feature. We can actually see one that was added here, which was associated with the protocol that was applied. This is a tag that is a embedding instruction, right? That will tell the histotech, which will embed this, that they should embed the tissue on its edge. So tags are great for instructions like this. It could also be instructions for cutting the slides, right? This is just one example for block embedding. And the tags and workflow actions are also good to use for QA. So let's say that I am grossing this case, and then I detect there is some kind of issue with it that I want to track, but I'm in the middle of grossing. I don't want to, get out of this window. So I'll just come down here to the tags and workflow actions, and I'll select that there was a discrepant patient name on this case. I can enter a comment about it. Let's say patient name on rec is Lisa, but bottle is Eliza. Now, once this flag has been added, it can be seen on the bottom here, discrepant patient name. And one of the advantages, or there are many advantages to tracking the QA issues in this way. So first, right, the grocer doesn't have to leave the screen and interrupt their workflow to track that there is an issue with this case. This is going to create a dedicated list or queue of all discrepancy issues of this type. So all patient names will be grouped together, where a dedicated person at the lab can be responsible for following up on this and making sure they all get resolved. The presence of this pending workflow action can prevent the report from being released. So if this is important as a discrepant patient name is, then we can make sure that the patient name is verified before the final report is released. And finally, we can pull stats on these, right? So we can see how many discrepant patient names we had in a period of time by client, physician, or if it's something more internally, histotech, by accessioner, etc. And when we're done here, we'll save. And there are a lot of opportunities for printing blocks. We could have printed the blocks at order entry, or you could print them here at grossing, whichever is your preference. Once we are done with grossing, we can go on to the next steps. So let's see if there are any questions about grossing.
All right. One from me. You mentioned tags and workflow actions. If you don't mind, can you go into a little bit more detail about what they are and what they do within the platform?
So tags and workflow actions are like our flags. They are totally customizable by each lab, and they're there to support really any auxiliary workflow that you might have that doesn't fit into like our predefined queues, such as the grossing queue. The tag is the more simplistic of the two. I sometimes describe it as like a sticky note that you apply to something like this is done, this is high risk, this was scanned. something like that. Maybe with PAP and HPV, like HPV is done, maybe. Um, and then a workflow action is similar, but more. It creates a queue of all of those workflow actions, and it should represent a task that someone needs to complete, right? Like following up on a QA issue, calling the provider, sending things to the state, and things that need to be reprocessed. Right, so it could be like external or internal. The workflow action, I guess both the tags and workflow actions support stats, so you'll be able to see how many of them you had in a certain period of time. Both can be used in rules, right? So like based on this tag, perform something, or even based on the absence of the tag, you can do something. So yeah, I guess an important feature of the tags and the workflow actions, like I mentioned, the grossing is the ability to prevent the results and or report from being released. So depending, if that is a significant issue that has been designated with that tag or workflow action, then yeah, you can have it hold the report until the issue is resolved.
All right. And so I understand this correctly. It allows for the prevention of errors as there's a handoff from one department to the next, and then also it doesn't slow down the processing. Correct? You can still move forward with that specimen, knowing that downstream it will be identified, that issue, and then hopefully corrected.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I think we're ready for blocks and slides and
Right.
multi-facility support.
All right. We'll go to the block queue now. The block and side queue are work queues, real-time work queues devoted to processing those specific specimen types. So in the block queue, it's the real-time list of all of the blocks that need to be processed and embedded. And from this queue, we can um, indicate or tell the system which blocks we are processing. We can open this begin process button here at the bottom and scan in the blocks that we are loading into the processor. Each block scanned will be loaded into the window, and you can customize what information you see about each block here. The block processing steps are considered optional. Some labs can find them very helpful, and some labs find them cumbersome. So it's really here, if you want to have this additional tracking information about your blocks, it's here for you. Or if not, it's not a big deal if you want to skip it. And then again, we can scan the block when it comes out of the processor in a similar fashion. And lastly, they can scan the block at embedding. Notice we see the tag that I also pointed out at grossing. So here they can see those instructions, make sure to embed the tissue on edge for this case. And with every step, the system is tracking the user that's performing this, as well as the time and date it is happening. So to touch on the multi-facility support aspect, LeoLab Out of Box supports laboratories that have multiple facilities within their organization. At any time a user is logged into the application, the system considers them to be at a specific facility. And you can see the facility I'm logged in at here on the bottom left. I'm logged in at our main laboratory. So everything in all the records in the queues are filtered specifically to what's at this location, and every other laboratory within our organization, like outreach locations we have, hospitals, will all be registered as unique facilities as well. And when any user is logged into facility in general, they only see things that are at their facility. In the block queue, we can actually see there's a dedicated column for facility, and that all of these are at the main facility. If we pretend that we're a different user at a different lab, let's say at our rural lab, then when we refresh this queue, we'll see there is a completely different set of blocks pending at this location, which we again can see in the facility column at the remote laboratory. So let's go back and continue with our slide processing. Slide processing is a very similar queue to the the block processing queue, where we will mark all of the slides as complete. Here we can open the assign window and scan a block, and then all the slides that need to be cut from that block will populate into the window. Um, and their labels will print. And then when these slides are done, then we can come back and tell the system that the slides are complete. By scanning them all into the slide completion window. Again, the system is tracking the user and the time date that all of these actions are happening. And we can mark the slides as complete. So to go back to the multi-facility support, we can see that that the facility of the slide is also shown in this queue. To go along with the multi-facility support, we have a transfer workflow. We know it's a common scenario that you might have that large laboratories have satellite locations where they might be accessioning, maybe even grossing, but let's say there's no histology laboratory. So after the grossing step, or really at any point in the workflow that makes sense, but whenever you're done processing this specimens at one location, you could transfer the specimen to a different internal facility, in which case it will start to show up in these queues, and the facility will be shown here, reflecting the facility which the slides came from, so that the histotech will know exactly what slides they need to work on and what has come from other facilities. It's important for any laboratory that has multiple facilities that their queues, only reflect what is at their facility, as it can be confusing and disruptive to the workflow to see things in your queue that aren't really there for you to work on. And yeah.
All right, we do have a couple of questions coming in for this section. First one is, what is the significance of the red shading on the slides list?
Yeah, the red shading in the accession column is a priority indicator. So in this environment, that means that case was designated as stat. You can configure or customize these colorings however you like. And this is just a visual indicator in the queues to the users, that those cases have higher priority.
Okay, and another one, for independent multi-facilities, how do you differentiate specimens with the same specimen ID? As an example, S1435 from different sites.
Yeah, in our system, every specimen gets its own unique identifier. Here, I'll just go to a random case in this queue to demonstrate. All right, so we can see every slide and block and the bottle has its own unique identifier. We call it the specimen ID. And that is the identifier we typically embed in the barcode for that specimen, so that anywhere throughout the application where that slide or that block is scanned, the system will know specifically which specimen from the case is being worked with.
All right, and another good one, how does role-based access protect sensitive data in multi-site labs?
Yeah, I describe the multi-facility workflow as mostly being like a workflow advantage, but it's definitely also a security advantage, right? We want to keep the cases that any technician working in the system has visibility on should only see the minimum cases that they need to perform their work, right? So there's no reason that I, as a user at the main laboratory, need to see the cases and thus the patient information with the cases that are not at my laboratory, that are at any of those outreach facilities. So yeah, it's not only a workflow advantage, but also a security advantage to not see cases or information with cases that aren't at your facility.
Okay. I think with that, we're ready to move on to pathologist resulting and coding.
All right. So let's go to the pathologist queue. The pathologist queue is the real-time list of all of the cases ready for pathologist sign out. If you were performing the assignment step that we mentioned earlier, then typically the queue would be filtered to the current pathologist who is logged in. And since I think there was a question about the pathologist queue, um, I'll just linger here for a moment. Here we also see the same color in the accession column that we saw in the other queues. In the system, purple is expedite. So again, you can customize those however you want them to appear. The yellow shading here is a turnaround time indicator that is test specific. So you can see it's for the surgicals, but like I don't have it configured for the prostates, for example, or the non-gyns. The way this works is that you can configure any number of buckets for when records associated with that case should turn certain colors. For example, maybe after 12 hours, it'll turn yellow, after 24, orange, after 48, red, etc. So that's a test-based configuration that you have, each lab has full control to customize. And yeah, this is just an indicator in the queues to what's aging to get your attention if there's cases that are exceeding their turnaround time. Additionally, the pathologist queue is configurable. So if there's any data associated with the cases that you really want to see that you don't see currently listed here, if this isn't data that the system knows about this case, it can be easily added to the queue. For example, let's say you want to split out patient name and patient date of birth to separate columns, or we want, I don't know, the pathologist name as a column. Anything like that really could be added in with this feature, and each user can have their own unique presentation if someone really wants to see that information and other people don't. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and open our case here. You can scan any glass slide from the case, and it will open the corresponding case for you. It will open to the final diagnosis field, with your cursor in the final diagnosis field, ready for the pathologist to enter their macro or dictate however they would like to enter their diagnosis. Here we also saw some more of those tags popping up. These can be client provider instructions for the reporting, separate from the ones we saw at order entry, right? Like let's say this provider always wants to include margin information as well as microphotographs on the report. So this can serve as a nice reminder to the pathologist to include those elements. Here in the final diagnosis, I'm going to type in my final diagnosis template. And we can see that in this case, it also came with a link microscopic description, as well as a comment, and that our floating report viewer opened and updated in real time with the changes that I made. So let's take a moment to look at the coding. We can see a summary of the CPTs and the ICDs here on the sidebar, regardless of where the cursor focuses. If you see the top part of it is changing, but we always see the CPTs and the ICDs. So we can click here to be redirected to the billing tab and see more information about these codes that were automatically applied for us. So we can see that 88305 was applied associated with site A because I chose that it was a biopsy. And the 88342 was applied because of the CD31 stain that was performed. These are, just examples of how you could configure this logic using our system. And on the bottom, we see the ICD that was added, and it came from the microscopic diagnosis macro that I chose. Additionally, another piece of automation that happened for us was the automatic creation of a correlation. This was a gyne biopsy with a PAP. So the system automatically created this correlation record between those two results for us. And here the pathologist can select if it does correlate or not, enter comments, and choose if they want to include it on the report or not. And let's go ahead and add a microphotograph. If you are a pathologist that has a microscopic camera, then we will integrate with the camera directly, you can click this button or use the keyboard shortcut. It'll open your normal camera software that you currently use, where you can take the image and then it'll be brought into LegoLab. I'll just go ahead and find a image I have saved on my computer as an example. And we'll see the image here, and it will be added to the report. And yeah, like that. And yeah, so after the final diagnosis is entered, you can do a little quality check on your CPTs and ICDs by seeing them in the sidebar. And then when you click release or use the corresponding keyboard shortcut, the report will be released and on its way.
All right. We do have a couple of questions that have come in since you've been demonstrating, Allison. First one, is there a way to track the turnaround time from the time the pathologist initially opens a case till when they sign it out?
We don't have an out-of-box turnaround time report for that, but we have done some custom reports to track similar metrics in the past. We can write a rule, for example, that when the pathologist first opens the screen, it'll save the time date stamp, and then we can use the time date stamp of when the case was signed out to do a calculation there. So yeah, we can get that data.
All right. And another one, is there any automatic comparison of current pathology findings with patient history on file? If any exist for either correlation or discrepancies, are users alerted?
Say there are any automatic comparisons. The pathologist can see the history. We can open this window to view the linked history with the specific patient. And this patient history viewer could also open automatically with the case, the same way the floating report viewer did, so that the pathologist can view potentially relevant information related to this current case. But besides the creation of the correlation, there isn't really any automation associated with analyzing the patient history. We do have the ability to include a historical table on the report. This one has one here with the PAP actually.
All right. Does the system support voice to text? And if so, which would you recommend as far as a company to partner with?
We do
Or does it
support
matter?
speech to text. We are historically, we have been system agnostic, but we have just actually finished our own speech to text feature. I apologize, I didn't have it ready to demo today, but I am sure we probably will be demoing it in the future. Yeah, so we are currently developing that for this screen for resulting and grossing primarily. And you'll be able to trigger macros and other commands like say release the report instead of clicking on it. But yeah, if you guys, we don't make you go with our speech to text. If the labs still want to go with a third party, that's totally fine. And we're compatible with those systems as well.
Okay, very good. A very good answer to that. One more here, digital pathology. Does the platform integrate with digital pathology solutions?
We do. On the technical side, it's pretty much treated like any other interface, like you might have with the stainer or any other device within the laboratory. For laboratories that have this set up, typically when this window is first opened, similar to how the report preview opens side by side, it'll also send a message so the viewer will open side by side. ideally, it's good if you have an external monitor, right? Because you'll have a lot of windows open, but then you can have both applications open side by side, and any fields of view captured in the IMS can be brought over to Legal Lab, similar to the one that I showed taking more manual.
Okay, really good interaction, really good questions. I think we're ready to move on to the final example, dashboards and analytics.
All right. I'm going to switch to a different environment to showcase the dashboards. In the demo environment, there's not very robust test data, so we can go to an environment where there is more robust data for showing. So these are our dashboards. Dashboards are a nice way to visualize real-time data of what's happening in the lab. Similar to the home screen, each user can have their own unique dashboard display, and new customers, the system will come preloaded with all the dashboards that we've previously made, and you can request new ones and actually also code them yourselves. The formats available for the widgets are bar graphs, line graphs, just like a table, and pie charts. I guess I don't have any pie charts in here right now. But yeah, these all reflect real-time data. This is a nice one showing like day of time that accessioning was happening. So we can see, when the busiest time of that part of the lab is. Here we are seeing grossing, or I guess turnaround time of various steps throughout the lab: grossing, embedding, site assignment, completion, and case completion, with the green bar being a weekly value from just this week and the blue being the average. So it looks like this lab is a little over their averages for this week, probably because of the holiday. But yeah, these are a really great way to gain insights about what's happening in your lab and see, data at a glance in a visual way.
Wow, looks very impressive, in fact. Maybe from your experience, key KPI that lab directors, lab managers would find most valuable to monitor on a daily basis.
I mean, it really depends on the lab. I think all the ones that I have here are pretty good sampling, right? Like how long things are taking at different steps in the lab, time of day, when things are most busy. This would also be a similar chart for like when pathologists are completing their cases. It's too early in the day for this laboratory for them to start reading, so we only see the historical trend line. But yeah, grossing productivity is pretty popular. Histology productivity. I mean, we only make dashboards that are useful because they've been requested by laboratories that wanted that data. So yeah, really every dashboard is valuable and useful for someone.
How does that work? So that is working with legal lab support to construct these dashboards within the environment?
Yeah, definitely most commonly clients reach out to us and we set them up. The dashboards are coded in a combination of JavaScript and SQL. They can also be created from our out-of-box stats reports. Technically, laboratories that give users access to like the admin area, like their LAS admin, their super users, if they are, fluent, they are skilled in JavaScript and SQL, they have the ability to set those up themselves, but definitely more common for people to reach out. And yeah, as soon as we'll create it, we'll put it in your environment, and then we'll add it to our like database so that all future clients will get it as well.
All right. And then, of course, this is a little bit different than, let's say you're a lab director and you're compiling stats for a monthly report. We're talking real time, daily updates. What kind of an advantage? It seems like very obvious, but what kind of advantage is that for the laboratory?
Yeah, I mean, having more information sooner is always better, right? And I think a lot of this information you can find in our stats reports, right, that are more traditional, like table view. So I think it's just really nice to have the visual. A lot of people are more visual, and then you can just get a really quick impression of what's going on without having to like read the data.
Okay, an opportunity. We'll open it up to a general Q&A session at this time, although we've had a pretty good, robust interactivity. to this point. So maybe the questions have been exhausted. If they're not, you can always reach us after the fact by contacting us via legallab.com. Go to the Contact Us section. Certainly love to hear from you and what your questions might be. Allison, I guess one last question for you. I see Allison on a daily basis. I know she wears many hats, much more than presenting demonstrations via webinar. Uh, I know you've got a previous lab background. I'm certain that really helps you in your current role. Kind of give us a sense of your role with Legal Lab and what your day-to-day is like.
So I'm the product manager. So kind of under that hat, um, I vet all new requests for development that come into us usually via support, also via implementations, and help design them and like plan and see if this is, something, a request that we are going to move forward with. So I work with the developers and help them prioritize like which tickets they are working on. I perform a lot of demos like this, and I've also been assisting with implementations. Helping labs make configurations. Um, yeah, I started recording videos for visual release notes, which I hear people are really excited about. So if you see any videos in the release notes, that was me.
Awesome. And I know we had a pretty good mix of people registering for this webinar. Some are already Legal Lab users, so hello and thank you very much. And some are curious about the system. So once again, thanks for attending and asking some really insightful questions. I think with that, we are finished. Allison, thank you very much for your time and for your expertise here, highlighting what this system in particular and overall what advanced laboratory information systems can offer. And again, the goal is to transform your laboratory. It is not impossible. If you work with the right laboratory information vendor and with people like Allison, it is certainly possible to have that transformation and to be successful despite the fact that there are staffing shortages, despite the fact that volumes have never been higher, despite the fact that it's very complicated in a lot of cases to actually get paid for the work that has been rendered by your laboratory. So with that, we'll just finish off with Legal Lab and what we represent. We look to help laboratories grow and thrive. We make a point of aligning with your organizational goals. And we don't just say it, we actually do care about your journey. We're aligned in this together. Your success is our success. I know that Surin, our CEO, likes to say that, and I think we all believe it. So again, as I wrap up, thank you to the audience. Thank you to Allison. For everybody that registered for this webinar, I will be sending out a recording of this webinar so you can look at it again if you need to or share it with colleagues, be it whatever you would like to do. With that, I think we are done for the day. Stand by for more webinars in the very near future with Allison and others. It's something that we really enjoy doing. It's a real direct connection that we are able to have with the audience. And so goodbye for now. And until next time, have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.